Hello and welcome to Draft Thunder. I'm Andrew.
I'm Ben, and this is Jean Claude.
Yes, welcome back, John Claude. We're here to discuss the Hall of Fame game and the best DFS plays that go with it. So, to start off, what do we expect out of this game?
Sloppiness. If history tells us anything, this game tends to get really sloppy in the late game, especially third and fourth quarters, just due to the fact that it's a bunch of guys that really aren't going to make the team or even vie for a practice squad spot or really even come close to an NFL career. With the added preseason game, and these guys have been in camp for maybe a week, rookies a week and a half, 2 weeks, so not a whole lot of time to get up to speed, get into shape, so a lot of sloppiness with this game.
Yeah, this is a good place for teams to see where their kind of lower end players are at, make some plays. Over the past years, we've seen low scores. The total for this game is 34, if you said. Yep. And over the past 8 years, there has only been 2 games that have been 34 points or above in all of the Hall of Fame games. So really, we expect low-scoring game and a lot of turnovers. So that leads me into saying one of the best plays that you will see on DraftKings will be the defenses. Now, this is a game where I guess there's going to be a lot of inexperience at the quarterbacks. We are not seeing Matt Ryan. We're not seeing Joe Flacco, who might throw a turnover anyway. But we're seeing a lot of those second, third string guys. And yeah, what do you expect them to do?
I think you might see Schaub for a little bit. On the Denver side of the ball, let's start there. We have a set rotation at quarterback. So it's good to know that you are going to see Drew Lock come in second. You are going to see Kevin Hogan start the game.
Yep.
And they already said that Ripien will be the guy that comes in after that. From what we understand, Ripien, he's the fourth-string guy there. You're never going to carry fourth quarterback, so they really don't expect him to make the team. We don't exactly know what time allotments they're going to give each. We know the Ravens gave Lamar Jackson a whole half as a rookie. My thinking is, why would you hurt a rookie quarterback in the first preseason game after 2 weeks of training? But they want to see what he can do in a live game situation. So I think Locke is an interesting play, but not necessarily a strong cash play. The quarterback I would go to is Kurt Benkert. Like we said, you're not going to see Matt Ryan. Matt Schaub has proven, he might play a couple snaps, maybe 1 or 2 drives, but nothing that's going to cut into too much of the time. And there's only one quarterback left on that team, and that's Kurt Benkert.
Yep.
We saw him on the Falcons preseason last year. He was fine. He's nothing to write home about for sure. But when you're doing preseason like this, and especially in a one-game slate, you're looking for volume, and you're looking for guys that are going to play a lot of the game, and that guaranteed playing time is really huge. So for Kurt Benkert, I think he's a lock and load into most lineups.
Yep. Yes, one thing to discuss about this, if you are looking, let me make sure, but I think it's on FanDuel. On one of the sites, there is another quarterback on either the Falcons or the Broncos that we haven't discussed, and they are not. It's Jason Thompson on FanDuel. He's not on the roster. I've looked on the depth chart on the Falcons official site. He is not on that roster. He's not on the DraftKings quarterback options either. So don't worry about him. And let's say if he wasn't on the roster, he wasn't updated on the sites or anything like that, he's going to be the lower end guy, not get as much playing time as Benkert. So really, we don't have to worry about him too much.
Yeah, it's weird.
You didn't even know about that. Yeah, I know. I threw that a little bit your way. But
yeah,
it's very weird.
I'm on the Falcons official site. I don't see him.
Yeah, it's not
That's
there.
very strange. But yeah, so like I said, I think he's a lock and load. If you're playing DraftKings, like we said, I think both defenses are going to be a lock and load. If you only want to play one for whatever reason, get a little shifty with it. I prefer the Broncos. Everyone knows about that Vic Fangio defense. I know that this is, again, going to be preseason, and it's going to be guys that maybe don't know his system very well. But I kind of think it trickles down, and that sort of style of play will kind of trickle down, even if it's just been 1 or 2 weeks with him. Rookies have had mini camps and whatnot. So with him becoming the coaches of the Denver Broncos, I think that he's going to have that trickle-down effect on the defense. Plus, they get to learn from guys like Von Miller and Bradley Chubb. So I would play the Broncos defense over the Falcons defense if you want to choose one, or even Broncos at captain on DraftKings.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't you say the Falcons put up a goose egg last year in their first game?
In their first preseason game, yeah, the Falcons got shut out by the Jets.
And that's the Jets.
A little bit extra there, so yeah, I would definitely say the Broncos are a stronger choice. Falcons could totally get a pick six and score and ruin that, but for all intensive purposes and for safety purposes, I think Broncos are a safer choice.
So before we move on to receivers, a little bit tight end, running back, let's talk about the format of the single game and what we should expect. So really, every player is the exact same price. It doesn't matter who you pick. You can pick kicker on FanDuel, defense on DraftKings, or quarterback. They're all going to be the same price. You can literally pick whoever you want, put them wherever you want. That being said, we have looked into the history of the past Hall of Fame games and who has been most successful because of all the quarterbacks moving around and because of kind of the amount of action that they get and give to different players around. We have noticed that the best person to put MVP, if you're going to win a GPP, so if you want to go for the whole contest, try and take it down, you want to play a receiver, most likely. They are the ones who get those long passes, break a tackle, go for a touchdown, and they usually get, especially on DraftKings, that full point for a catch. So like last year it was Wims who would have won you GPP. I think he was like he was a good amount of catches for like 70 some yards, and that times 1.5 was great. Even Tyler Bray, who was the quarterback who played almost that whole game for the Bears, he wouldn't have even been close to that. Mm-hmm. So wide receivers 7 for 89 is what I'm seeing. So there's always going to be that one guy who goes above and beyond. It just is kind of picking out who that's going to be. So really, that's one of the things that we're going to try and focus on is getting you those 4 or 5 players for receivers at least that will be in the mix, having the most chances, those 9, 10 targets hopefully, that will help you take down those GPPs.
Yeah, it's definitely tough. You don't really know what these guys are going to do in a live game situation, and somebody could go for an 80-yard touchdown. It's kind of because there's, I don't know, 12 receivers on each depth chart. I mean,
yeah.
Granted, 3 or 4 won't play if at all.
Yeah.
I read that Julio Jones already said he probably won't play at all in the preseason. So if you want to stash that away for the rest of the preseason, but so I mean you're still left with 8 on each team, something like that, 16 total. It's really tough to narrow it down, but I think we've done a decent job of really narrowing down the options and looking at using different words we've heard from the coaches and stuff like that.
Yep. Go into it.
Yeah. So the first one I'm going to mention is Devin Gray. So we actually did see him in the preseason for the Falcons last year. He played against the Jets. He was their leading receiver in that game where they put up a goose egg. 4 catches, 83 yards. Kurt Benkert also played in that game. He was 9 of 17. I don't know the exact split because Schaub started the game, but I have to imagine that some of that was with Benkert. Plus, they were also on the practice squad together, and Dan Quinn is quoted as saying this week he's really excited to see what the guys from the practice squad have done since the last preseason game of last year to this first preseason game of this year to see how they've improved. So, I think there might be a little bit of a connection there, a pseudo stack, if you could say. So, I think Devin Gray is going to be my top wide receiving option for this Hall of Fame game.
Yeah, definitely. There are multiple people who, again, will be thrown around the top. I'm just going to go through them a little quicker. There is, I'm going to get this wrong, Zacchaeus. He's one of the receivers for the Falcons. He looks really good. There's also Christian Blake. Just because I'm running over these quicker does not mean they're a worse option. Any of these guys could break out. But these are the highlighted guys who we think will get the best chances. Going after that, so those are the 3 Falcons receivers who I think will get the most playing time. And then moving on to our side of the ball for Denver, we have Nick Williams, who actually has been a receiver. He's moved around with a few other teams. Apparently, he has looked really good in training camp. They didn't expect him to make the team, but then the coach saw him in the slot and really, really, really liked what he saw. Like a little bit of Wes Welker in him is what they said. He's going to be a good option. They think that they'll give him a lot of chances in this game. Also, another person who's shown a lot of potential in training camp is Trinity Benson on the Denver side of the ball. They just like what they see out of him, too. And those are the 2 main guys out of Denver. Denver's definitely a lot harder to figure out who the best plays are at receiver than Atlanta. We think that the Atlanta plays will probably be safer, but the Denver plays, you never know, they could do just as well or even better. So those are the 5 guys who I would mix around at my MVP. But you can also go and do a running back. Running backs are a little more weary, but this slate is actually a little bit helpful because for Denver you have Philip Lindsay, Royce Freeman, Devontae Booker. They have all had their roles in their time as they've been in Denver. They've all been a starter at one point, or maybe not Royce Freeman, but he got a lot of playing time. They know what he's got. So that leaves us with only 5 more guys, and 2 of them are fullbacks. So basically, it narrows it down to 3 options. One is Devontae Jackson. One is
Kalfani Muhammad? Is that where you're going?
That was pure. Both are very good options. Jackson is a rookie. I think Muhammad is a second-year player now. So it's that same thing about after the first year. This is the game where those guys who are on the practice squad like to be shown. They like to show out and get the most playing time. So they are both really good options too. Did you have a little bit on Muhammad? I think
he was on the practice squad last year. He's my top running back play. Also, just a side note: these guys are really going to be fighting for playing time and roster spots if Theo Riddick decides to land with Denver, who he just visited. I had originally thought that he was for sure going there, but it looks like he hasn't officially signed or anything. But if he lands there, that's going to be really rough for these guys. So them hearing that probably, I would imagine, put a spark behind them, and I would assume they're going to want to show out, especially as soon as possible. So I really like Kalfani Muhammad. Quick note on David Williams. He's really fast. He actually has 8 career carries for 36 yards, so a pretty decent yards per carry. He was a sprinter in college, 100 meter and 200 meter, and we kind of noticed in preseason that speed kind of kills. Guys aren't ready for the speed. They're not used to the speed of the game, so I think he's interesting. I don't know if he's too good for this game necessarily, but I think he could fill a nice little role that people aren't expecting and have a nice game.
Yeah, I agree. He was the third player out of those 3 players that were possible. And then going on to Atlanta, Quadri Olison, I think, is a good play for Atlanta, and also Tony Brooks-James. And you said a little bit about Brian Hill?
Yeah, another one who might be a little too good for the game.
I think so.
But I think he might get a lot of early carries. Maybe not a lot, but a lot of the early work. So I think he could sneak in the end zone maybe early, or maybe kind of flash early, get 50 or 60 yards if he plays through the first half.
Yeah.
But he's been around the league a little bit. I think he had 20 carries or so last year, I believe with the Bengals. Or no, with the Falcons. He was originally with the Bengals.
Mm-hmm.
So he definitely has some talent. I think he averaged about 7 yards per carry with those 20 carries. So definitely a little bit of talent. Maybe if they do decide to showcase him here, he really plays well because he has more talent than the defense. So I think he's a guy that you won't see a ton of time from, but as long as he gets maybe 8 carries or 8 touches, he could do a lot, and that might be when the game is the quickest and the most live it'll be for the whole game, and that might work really well for his favor. So I think that's kind of a decent GPP play.
Yeah, a lot of the scoring happens in the first quarter and the second quarter because that's usually the most experienced players. The teams have the most reps with each other usually at that point, and that would be him and Barner will be showing out in the first, second quarter probably. And then, well, I think more the first quarter because I think the other 2 plays, like I just said, are more volume.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to go safer, it's usually the other 2 for volume. You never know with these running backs they get in the end zone, but Hill, Barner would be, or more Hill, I would say, than Barner. I think they want Barner more for special teams and stuff.
And third down.
Yeah, but Hill is definitely the more GPP option. One other thing to talk about with running backs in this, they do not really do that much. I remember last year we had high expectations for Brady Cunningham, and he looked good.
Yeah.
Like, he looked good in that game against the Ravens. He only got 6 carries, okay?
Yeah.
And he got 37 yards. So, like, it's not like they didn't run him because he wasn't doing well. He was over 6 yards a carry. It's just, it's not how the game flow works in these games. They want to see what the quarterbacks have, want to see what the receivers have, because there's so many more receivers.
Right.
So you'll get the most out of the running backs through the receiving game, if anything.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. It is also important to note that Dan Quinn, again, I don't want to put too much stock into coach speak and things like that, especially in the regular season, because coaches say whatever they want, and a lot of times it's wrong. But in the preseason, it's kind of all we have to go off of, and the coaches really aren't trying to hide their cards like they are in the regular season. Mm-hmm. They want these guys to get excited if they're talking about them. They want these guys to compete, and what Dan Quinn has said is that none of these running backs behind Devontae Freeman had really captured that. He said they've all done really well, which he's really happy about, but no one's captured that number 2 role. they have guys like Anito Smith, who played well but got hurt. He's coming off an injury. But no one's really come out and said, I'm the number 2 back behind Devonta Freeman. They've all pushed each other to become better. So I think you might see some of these guys like compete against each other and eat into each other's workloads. That's why I'm leaning towards taking the best player in my eyes if I'm going to pick an Atlanta running back. Again, not necessarily a cash game play, but a GPP play for sure.
So, we have gone through basically quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers. We'll go through the few tight end plays, which are also kind of risky, but can pay off if they do well and could also make or break your lineup. And then I'll wrap up some formats. So go ahead about the tight ends that you like.
Yeah. Hey, I'm back with some tight ends.
Jeremy Sprinkle's not on
He's not on the slate.
Not on the slate. Thank goodness.
But again, we haven't seen tight ends really do that well in the Hall of Fame game, so kind of risky. A couple guys I will highlight though. Noah Fant, I really liked at Iowa. So he's a rookie tight end for Denver now.
First round pick.
Tight ends don't go in the first round unless they're really good. And Iowa actually had 2 tight ends go in the first round, which is absurd. I thought Noah Fant was the better of the 2. We'll see. He's a really, really good pass catcher, so that translates to fantasy points. He's not one of those guys he can block, but he's not one of those guys that's just there to block. He's gotten rave reviews from practice and training camp, and coaching staff really likes him on the first depth chart. He's on second string, which is really kind of big for a rookie tight end. Heuerman is that first string guy. I don't think you'll see him very much. And there's 2 tight ends on the Broncos that are hurt. I mean, they have Jake Butt, who is hurt. He is not trained yet. He's not practiced yet. And who is
Bug Howard.
Bug Howard.
Who had an ankle injury.
So there's 3 tight ends total now for the Broncos, outside of Heuerman.
There's 4. But
4.
I bet half of them are blocking tight ends. So they want to see this guy Font. I'm seeing from all the beat writers for the Broncos that they are most looking forward to him and Drew Lock show out.
Yeah, 4. You're right. I'm sorry I didn't see Morrill Stevens. But yeah, so other tight ends is Troy Fumagalli, who only averaged about 4 catches per game at Wisconsin, which seems like a decent amount, but it's Wisconsin and they use a lot of tight ends, so I don't put too much stock into him. And then Austin Fort and Morrill Stevens, who I don't know too much about. I know Noah Fant has a lot of talent. I think he can show in this game. It's just a matter of how much they want to risk a first-round pick in a Hall of Fame game. But if they get some chemistry going with Drew Lock, you might see a bunch of targets his way, and they might have some fun with it and him getting the end zone.
Yeah. So. Going back to that with the first-round thing, last year, because we're Ravens fans, we focus on it, Hayden Hurst played into the late third quarter and then caught a touchdown. So first-round picks aren't necessarily out of the question for these, and especially if they want to see what a catching tight end has, it could be the same kind of situation that we saw last year with him. So,
Just thinking about rookie quarterbacks, if they get in trouble, they're going to look to those big tight ends over the middle of the field for those short routes.
Especially near the end zone.
Drew Lock, exactly. Drew Lock's going to want to show off his arm and throw deep balls and stuff, but if he feels any kind of pressure, he's not going to want to get hit this early, and they're going to tell him to not get hit this early. So if Noah Fant's in there with him, I expect a lot, maybe a good amount of checkdowns, some intermediate crossing routes, and down near the end zone, he's a monster. He catches anything in his path. So
I'm excited to see him play.
I'm excited to see him play as just a football fan. I think he can translate to some fantasy points this week, and not a lot of people will be looking at tight end, although he is a higher,
bigger name.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's another thing that we didn't really talk about is ownership. I don't really know where it's going to be in this, but it's not. It's going to be a little bit, at least a tiny bit on the big names, because people don't know what's going on, and they just want a little bit of action. So try and lay off the big names and kind of stick to the people that we're saying.
Yeah.
Because we believe that they will have the most action. Real quick, try and knock out those tight ends for Atlanta.
Yeah, there's 2, Jaden Graham and Alex Gray. They were both on the practice squad last year, as I said. Dan Quinn said he's excited for those practice squad guys to show up. Alex Gray, I believe, is the one. He's from the international exemption, so he was originally from the UK. Kind of a cool story. Jaden Graham went to Yale. Just throwing it out there. Smart guy.
Maybe. Probably.
I would assume.
Yeah.
I lean Jaden Graham. I think he is probably a little bit more talented.
And I've heard more about him too through camp.
So I think I've heard his name pop up a few times. I think he could also be valuable in this game. Again, tight ends are not the safest option for your cash games or captain spot, but as a last player or a second last player or something like that, a really nice fill that if they fall in the end zone, you're going to shoot up the leaderboard.
Yep, most definitely. So I think that is about all of our plays. Now just do a quick recap. What we have Kurt Benkert at quarterback. He is almost somebody that I'm putting in almost every one of my lineups, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
not at captain necessarily. If you're a new captain, that would be a cash game or a more safe play. You're probably not going to win GPP. If he goes off, sorry, and I hope he goes off, but I don't think he'll be the top scorer.
In that first game against the Jets, he had 2 rushes for 11 yards. So I mean, maybe a little bit of rushing upside, but not too much. Just before Andrew goes over all of the plays, I can tell you I'm only playing DraftKings for this game, and I am locking in both defenses and Kurt Benkert. I'll mix around captains. I'll do some things with my lineups, but I'm telling you half of my lineup is set, and then I'll mix in the rest with the plays that we talked about.
With all of these plays, or not necessarily our plays, but most everybody in these games, we can assume what we can assume. We can get what we hope we're going to get. Kurt Benkert will get points. That's almost a guarantee unless he gets hurt right away. The defenses will get points. That is almost guaranteed by how the Hall of Fame game goes. None of the other guys will get points guaranteed. That is just a fact. But we try and make it as best as we can.
Yeah, and we've narrowed down this player pool to guys that we're 98% sure are going to see time that is significant. So, a quarter plus. And that's really what we're looking for. If they don't happen to try to show up on a certain night, like on a Thursday night in Canton, Ohio, heard there's a lot of nightlife, and no, I'm just kidding. If they just don't show up, it's really hard to gauge in preseason. You don't go off matchups. You don't have any other way of knowing other than, hey, we're hearing really good reports from this guy. He's going to play. He has talent. Let's see what he can do. He dropped 16 passes. Well, that's unfortunate, but these guys are guys you're going to see on the field. It's just a matter of if it translates to the box score.
Yep. All right, so the final run through would be Kurt Benkert. I'm going to consider Drew Lock in at least one. So those are the 2 quarterbacks. I got Oleson, Tony Brooks-James, Brian Hill. Those are all question mark running backs to throw in there. Khalfani Muhammad. Khalfani Muhammad.
There you go.
And Devontae Jackson are the 2 top running backs in my opinion, both on Denver. Then you have David Williams to consider, who's fast. Got nothing more about that in my opinion. Christian Blake and Devin Gray and Olamide Zaccheaus. I'm botching his name, but I think he's going to be a beast. I have him in at least multiple MVP spots. I'm hearing really good things about him. And then we got on the Denver side, Nick Williams, Trinity Benson. I know I didn't mention him, but maybe a little bit of Winfrey. That's if you're doing with these 30, 40 lineups, you want to throw them in one, go for it. And then the tight ends, we got Jaden Graham, Alex Gray, and the top one would be Noah Fant, most definitely out of all of them.
Did you say Devin Gray?
Did I say Devin Gray? Alex Gray. Same thing.
No, I'm saying.
Oh, yeah, with Christian Blake. Yeah. Yep.
I can tell you Devin Gray will be in my MVP if I'm not using. He'll be my most used MVP.
Those 3 Atlanta guys are what I would go with at MVP the most. If you are lucky enough to have the bankroll to be throwing around those 20 entries in the $1 would be a good one to do it with. Throw around all those receivers, all the running backs or maybe not running backs as much, but throwing all the receivers at MVP. Mix it up as much as you can. I know I have at least 10 lineups so far that have it mix and match to where I think I stand a pretty good chance to take one down, and I'll probably be doing more. And then on DraftKings, definitely go with defenses. And that's basically what you should do with all these lineups. I think we've given as much advice as we can.
Yeah, I mean, for a 1-game slate where you're not going to see a ton of, NFL-ready talent, we've narrowed down the player pool from, 96 guys on the roster right now, so 100 and that's a lot of math. 182? No, 192.
I don't know.
186.
What'd you say, 96?
Yeah.
It's 192. Okay.
Yeah, that number. I don't know. Obviously, there's defenses in there, but
like 15 players.
Right, and So it's about building that optimal lineup to take down a GPP. We think we've narrowed down to these 15-ish players that any combination will be in the money. Um, and then it's just about building the optimal one to take it down. So we hope we take one down. We hope you take one down.
We do.
And let us know.
I'm really looking forward to this slate, and I think that if you're watching this video, we have put all our chips in on this, and we've done a lot of research. So please like, comment, and subscribe. Follow us on Twitter at DraftThunderDFS. The key to doing that is we have kind of insider looks into what the training camps have to offer, what the coaches have to say. So we will see more possibly going into Thursday who will be playing more, who's going to get the calls for more time.
Yeah.
So please follow us. We'll keep you updated. If
Pay
we
attention
like,
to the Twitter. If you see something out there, tweet it at us. Let us know it. Ask us the questions.
slide in our DMs.
Yeah, we'll answer anything. Twitter, YouTube, DMs. So yeah, just hit us up. Let us know any questions. If you want to talk about any certain player more or any strategies you might have in mind. Just as a note, we don't send out full lineups. We don't like to do that. We think it kind of waters down the industry. We want you to build the lineup yourself and have fun doing it. We just give you the optimal plays to do that. So, but hit us up with any questions you might have, any last-second roster decisions. We'll be available.
Yep. So best of luck out there, and we will see you next time.
Yeah.
Thank you.